Well, warm welcome, everyone, wherever you are. I recognize many of you, so it's nice to see you again. And I'm always really happy to make some new friends, spiritual friends. So thank you for coming. So we know today's topic is the kindness of softness in space. And when I was thinking about what I might be able to offer that really comes from my heart and what I'm practicing a lot now and have been for quite a while, and the practices that have had like incredible impact on me have been the somatic practices of spaciousness and softness, and how that really runs through pretty much everything that I do now. So I've noticed these really beautiful um, changes in myself. And as I've been offering these over the decades, other people seem to find similar effects. And these practices, I hope, will be very practical and very accessible to you, not too esoteric, not conceptual, which is not exactly what we're used to uh, many times in life or even with Dharma. We tend to focus on the mind and the practices of the mind because that's our perception in a sense. There is no practice that's just the mind. It's always the mind body, always, always. And so I like to highlight that. It's a place I can hold and that I dwell in naturally and easily now. But it is cultivated. So sensing the body, mindfulness of the body, the somatic experience of energy or feelings, because the body is what is where we feel feelings. Actually, it can be cultivated and learned. It's not necessarily something that all of us were brought up um, to know. So that's the good news. Everything can be cultivated. And I think any of us that are practicing on the path of Dharma know that, the teachings were to help us along, you know. Um, yes, to help us and support us. And the Buddha saw what we needed, he saw the way. So what I'll be doing is actually bringing you through or guiding you through some short practices that will open into a larger, more silent practice. So it's, I will guide you into these short practices and then obviously into a longer silence. But just so you know, we're going to start out and I'm going to be shifting, hopefully, your experience or helping you shift your own experience. And what I'd love you to do is track your experiences, is to really track your own experiences. So, and then we'll have a time to, as those of you who come to these sessions know, we'll have time for a talk and then some questions and responses. Um, yeah, so we'll stop at that. So I would invite you to find a posture that you can be in for about 30 minutes. And if you need to move at any time, that's absolutely fine. I love seeing you on camera, but if you're more comfortable with it off for the practice, that's absolutely fine. So I'll give you a moment to find your shape. Sort of we put our bodies in different shapes, depending on what might be the most helpful for us and supportive of for us to turn within and to settle a bit. So whether your eyes are fully closed or cast down, softly cast down, let's begin by just noticing how the body is. And when we're noticing how the body is, we're going to notice that there are different aspects of the body that we sense. pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. As part of noticing the body, we notice the breath, wherever it might be expressing itself the most right now, how it feels. And as noticing, while we're noticing things as they are, we can notice our emotional body or the emotional states that might be arising and shifting and passing for us right now, just at this moment. We don't have to like them to notice them. And the same with our mental landscape or mental states or configurations that are rising and shifting and changing right now. We can just notice. Sometimes we notice the mind, heart, body all at once, or as they show up and are a little bit more prominent and rearranging. And as you're noticing this variety of expression, mental expression, emotional expression, somatic expression, can you also notice how your inner gaze shifts with whatever it is that becomes most obvious or prevalent, or that pulls your awareness or attention somewhere? It's almost as if we look. For instance, if you're noticing sensations in your feet, you might have an inner gaze that looks down. If you're noticing the heart and the expressions of the heart or emotions, that could be anywhere in the body, but you also might shift your inner gaze to the heart area. Sometimes when we're thinking, we get caught and magnetized towards the conceptual or thinking mind, we might look up or up and out, even, not so much in the body. If you can notice any of these areas of gaze or looking within, you can also choose where you would like your gaze to be. For instance, you can look towards the back of your skull, allowing your eyes to sink very deeply into the soft space of the skull. And we can also look towards the heart center, right in the center of the breastbone, in that area. And you may notice that there's a different feeling or tonality to that. And gaze at the heart area. And we can also gaze below the navel. And there'll be a different resonance or tonality or experience when we do that. And the interesting aspect of inner gaze is that we can choose where it is. And sometimes we don't notice it, it just automatically happens, and we take our seat somewhere inside. Or sometimes the gaze isn't settled at all. It's all over the place. We can notice that too. But we can choose. We have agency where we'd like to turn our internal awareness and see if we can rest or take refuge just for a few moments there. It can be anywhere. If you're able to rest your internal gaze somewhere, you'll notice when it gets pulled away. Well, let's see if we can hold that with some curiosity rather than trying to yank it back. The thinking mind is rather like a magnet. It pulls us towards it or pulls awareness there, wherever there is. And notice that it's part of our shared experience of being alive and awake, being human, having this mind, heart, body. It's normal and natural. And see if you can invite yourself or your awareness, your presence, wherever you'd like it to be again. Or if we do that with kindness, it comes back fairly easily. Let's see if we can broaden our awareness to include the space around us now. So we begin by focusing in and noticing things as they are, making some kind choices about where we'd like to rest our attention. And then we can invite some agency, make the intention to open the view, create a little bit more spacious awareness. And one way to do that is anchoring in the body, like we have been a little bit, but noticing the weight of the body. We notice the weight of the eyes, in a sense, by allowing the eyes to sink into the skull. Notice the weight of your bones and allow yourself to connect with whatever you're resting on. Just sense gravity, connection, contact, and settle within the space a little bit and then open to the space you're in, just sensing it, not looking. But see if you can sense the space above your head, behind you or in front of you, or to your sides, even below you. Sensing is a different kind of awareness than thinking. And we sense space through the light in the room, either through lamps or the windows. And that comes through the eyelids. And we sense space by sounds that are coming from above or below or all around us. They're all held within the space that we're in. We can sense space through the temperature of the room or if there's a breeze. We can sense space by imagining the sky above us. We can sense space when we imagine any natural environment that we find supportive, beautiful, healing, restful. So we can invite space in many ways through many vehicles of awareness, of capacity. If you'd like, you can imagine a space that you love, whether it be the sky sitting at the ocean, being in a forest or a meadow, and then begin to breathe it in. Breathe in the natural environment or the space into your body. You can breathe the sky in. And just like inner gaze, wherever you imagine that you're breathing, you'll be inviting a somatic response, a physiological response. So you can imagine breathing in from a natural environment or a space that you love and bringing it somewhere into your body. And for today, I would suggest try breathing into your heart area. So you can breathe the sky into your heart area, widening front to back and side to side, just incredibly gently, like you're opening some windows and inviting in a breeze. It's ever so tender and light, and the container of the body is like a bubble or like a cloud. Not tight, not constricted, but releasing, relaxing, becoming more permeable anywhere in the body, but maybe you'd like to try in the heart area today. In these last few minutes of practice, if you'd like to, imagine that you're opening the windows everywhere in your body, or that you're able to sweep this kind, gentle breeze up and down, around, side to side, wherever you'd like it to go. And that this breeze, this wind, this prana, this breath that's so tender and soft is just inviting and bringing in some space wherever you'd like it to go, wherever you feel it would be helpful. So experiment. There's no one way to do it. Now, if you're able to, step back, hands off, and just be. Notice the state of your body again, the landscape of your heart, the tonality of your mind as they are now, or as awareness is reflective at this moment. When you're ready, allow your eyes just to gently glide open. And as you open your eyes, see if you can keep the eyes very softly resting in the back of your skull, or that's what it feels like, that they're dropped in. And so your gaze is somewhat soft, or maybe a little softer than when you started. And take in the light of your room, take in the colors. If you can see outside, look out a window, take in the view, whatever you have. Just a tinge of sky is okay, whether it's daytime or evening. And then we can also take in each other with this intention or invitation, or even thinking of it as receptivity. And I like to remind all of us, myself included, that everybody that we see online, whether it's a name or a person that we can see visually, has a pretty beautiful, intense life. Beautiful and intense, I should say. We're variations on this theme all the time. Yeah. But we're not just flat images in a rectangle here. We each have hearts and minds and bodies and a willingness, all of us here, a willingness to be curious or try something new or be with each other under the Dharma sky, let's say, or within. So if you'd like to move around a little bit and stretch, that's absolutely fine. I encourage that. So I'd like to say a little bit about what we did and why, and give you just a light framework so that if something today inspires you or creates a sense of curiosity, that you can have a little framework or context for it and try it again on your own. I am a firm believer in what the Buddha taught, or when he said, "Ehi passako," which is come see for yourself. And so often concepts get in our way of direct experience. You might have noticed that here or there in your life, where we learn something conceptually. And if it doesn't meet our experience or what we're being guided into, let's say, or what we think we should be feeling, sensing, experiencing, then we tend to judge or think we didn't get it, and usually that's not true. So the direct experience of something is true. And uh, what I was inviting today was noticing, first of all, just things as they are. It's almost as if we have different landscapes. We separate them. That's just perception. They're not separate at all, but we sense the body and we notice different sensations and you know, experiences in the body. There's lots of experiences in the body, yeah. And we can notice our emotional landscape, and that can be quite full, quite interesting. Also, mm, mm, not so pleasant sometimes. And we can notice the mental landscape, and it's the same. It could be pleasant, it could be unpleasant, it could be neutral. And we tend to separate those three bodies or those landscapes. And then we start to notice that they're all entwined. We can't really separate them. We can think we do, but we can't really. And so there's a little sensation in the body, or we notice a breath, or then we'll notice a feeling, an emotion, and then we'll notice a thought, and it kind of gets all tangled up a lot of the times. It's just the general experience of awareness. Yeah. So it's nice to loosen up the perception that there's a body, and then there's a mind, and then there's a heart. It's all of the above. And when we're noticing the gaze or the pull of awareness. We notice sometimes we step back and we're the witness. And then there's what is being witnessed. And sometimes we get entangled in what is being witnessed and we believe that we are what we're witnessing, or that the witness aspect is what it's witnessing. And it's not. The witness is not what it is witnessing. Awareness is not what it is aware of. So there's a little bit of space. It's not a cold distance, but a perspective, let's say, or a view that we can start to notice shifting. Sometimes we're caught in what we're witnessing. We identify with it or what we're aware of, and we believe that that's who we are or what we are. And we forget that there's the awareness, the witness, that's noticing it all. And so having a little bit of perspective is like giving ourselves a little bit of space. And then I asked you to widen your view, and that was by noticing the space around us. Because sometimes when we practice, we get very sort of egocentric, sort of involved. This is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but we want to be able to notice that that's not all there is. So it's a relative view, moving to more of a spacious view. It's almost as if we're moving, not even almost, but it is as if we're moving from the egocentric perspective to an ecocentric perspective, noticing the space around us, noticing the sky, even if it's through our imagination, remembering what the sky looks like, um, knowing that there's space below us, to our sides, and that the light is coming in from the space that we're in. Sounds are coming in from the space that we're in. Sensations are felt from the space that we're in right now. And so it's a widening of view. And sometimes it can open to being a little bit more permeable perception. And so it's not a solid, just inward seeking, noticing. It's permeable, it moves. It's an exchange between inner and outer all the time. And sometimes that can be quite helpful in terms of being kind. Because if we get too tight and self involved, there's not a lot of space for kindness there. One of my favorite quotes, if you've practiced with me before, is from a Zen teacher named Uchiyami Roshi. And he talks about, he has a book called uh, uh, Opening the Mind, the Conceptual Mind, where he says that thinking means to be grasping or holding on to something with our brain's conceptual hand. So you might be able to relate to that sometimes when you're thinking or you're worried or you're anxious or you're feeling hurt even or separate, there's a tension there, there's tightness. Essentially it's contraction. So the thinking mind can contract the body, the heart itself. And so he suggests that if we open the conceptual hand of thought, if we don't conceive, he says, what is in our hand falls away. And that's spaciousness. So if we invite spaciousness, what we're concerned with, or too occupied with, or entangled with, can be released. And that's through softness. That's through opening. That's through letting go. Now, this is all not just something that we can imagine. You can actually sense this. And I have a feeling some of you did. So when the body is softer, even if we're inviting softness and spaciousness in through the imagination, but when the body is softer, we give ourselves this luxury of letting things move and come and go. And when things can move and come and go, we feel more connected. We're not isolated. We're not separate from, it's not me and you, it's us. It's not earth and me, it's everything. There's constant interchange, as we know. And what we're noticing is nature, impermanence, the true nature of all things. And if we allow ourselves to be a little softer and spaciousness, or spacious, excuse me, then we can notice a little more how things come and go. Sometimes pleasant things come and go, sometimes unpleasant things come and go, sometimes neutral things hang around and then go, and sometimes it's a little bit of a mix. But we can notice that the entanglement with something, becoming magnetized, I also use that as an image that the mind thoughts magnetize us and they pull us out of the body into some other realm, not in the present. And when you notice that, you can also begin to notice that there's a contraction or squeezing. There's clinging. essentially. And the clinging creates the dukkha, the stress, the discomfort, the suffering. But softness releases dukkha. Softness releases everything. So having spacious awareness more and more can come through the physical body, the somatic sense of softness and space, however it comes. There's a Ajahn in the Thai forest tradition named Ajahn Suchito, and uh, I've not met him yet, but I have a really deep connection with how he teaches and talks. And one of the things I appreciate about him is that he's very somatic. He talks about the body and the somatic and the energy a lot, as do many of the uh, Thai forest monastics. But um, I've been reading a lot of his teachings and listening to his talks in the last few years. Very inspiring to me. And he's got a book called Breathing Like a Buddha, and um, I'm going to just read you a little bit from that. He says he was talking about the sense of the nervous system, really, as breath and nervous system being the same. And some of the things that we're doing through breathing practices is balancing the nervous system, relaxing the nervous system. And he names that directly. A lot of the monastics talk about this, but more indirectly. So he's naming it directly. He says the point that he was talking about, the nervous system, is that this embodied energy connects the material realm with the somatic. Embodied energy runs through the stirring, stress, calm, and gladdening of our entire nervous system. If it's distorted, it inflames and corrupts the mind. If it's healthy, it clears it. So we can sense when this is then end quote. I mean, this is me speaking. We can sense when things become entangled, which is also the same thing as getting distorted. And we can sense that in the body starting to narrow or grip or cling. And so we can invite, as soon as we notice that, we can invite this somatic sense of softness, imagining the clouds, breathing in the sky, imagining sitting in the middle of a field and breathing in the flowers, or wherever in nature the ocean breathes, wherever in nature that we find some nourishment and some refuge. Ajahn Sumedho is another forest monastic who's one of my teachers, and he says the spacious mind has room for everything. It's like the space in a room which is never harmed by what goes in and out of it. And I think many of us have read or heard the Rumi's Guest House poem, yeah? It's probably one of the most beloved poems in the spiritual world, in our current spiritual world. And he's talking about inviting guests into the house. Now, sometimes, you don't really want to invite a guest to stay too long, but, it's about having an open door, basically. It's about having room enough and space enough to have someone or some thought or feeling come in or some experience come in, but also to have enough spaciousness and kindness to respectfully allow it to leave. It's not closing the door and trying to, escape it while you're in the same room. It's about opening the door, opening the windows, and allowing it to leave, you know, in its own time, because that's basically what happens anyway. So he goes on, Ajahn Suchito, in another area of his book, he says, when we're cultivating the heart, we're not concentrating on what appears or disappears, but in the change. And that's also part and parcel of permeability, of the true nature of impermanence, of things coming and going and changing. So when we become entangled, we become condensed, we contract. When we open, we allow things to move. But what we're noticing is movement, not necessarily content, hopefully. We're noticing the impermanent nature of all things arising and passing, flowing through, getting caught sometimes, but then eventually moving. And if we can do that with some spaciousness and softness, then that's actually kind to, we're being compassionate and caring about our own human experience. We're not judging it and trying to push it away, which is aversion. We're not attached to it and trying to hold on to it, which is another form of clinging, right? But just allowing. And so I think it's through the somatic sense of the body that we can really gracefully do this. It's harder, I think, to do it through the mind. Oh, I need to have some space, some softness and spaciousness. We can think that until we're blue. But when we start to sense it and invite it in the body, then we have the experience of the softness, the spaciousness that is kindness, that is compassionate, that is connected, that is permeable, that allows things to come and go, not get entangled or overly involved or think that we can control all of that. We can't. But we can allow things to move through the room of the body, through the sky of the mind, through with breath in the heart area. So the other practice that I invited you to try was to breathe into the heart area and create a little bit more space there. This is a somatic way, or it can be a somatic way of practicing metta. If we can open the area of the heart, so below the arms, the armpits, and into that sternum area, breastbone area, then we're actually allowing some somatic space for the heart. The heart can quiver a little bit more easily. So remember that one of the definitions, many of you know this, is that metta is the quivering of the heart. So the heart can't quiver if the conceptual hand is tight. So the more we soften the area around the heart, the more the heart can feel. Now that might sound a little scary and something that you don't want to invite, but if the heart can feel and moves, then things can move around and in and out of it. It's the tension that creates the holding, and that's what's not comfortable. That's what's stressful. Holding on or pushing away is stressful. It's dukkha. There was a Japanese teacher, or sorry, Chinese teacher named Lao Tzu, and he said, muddy water, let stand, becomes clear. So water is a very spacious aspect. It's one of the elements that's very spacious, right? Water moves around things. Water allows things to move through it. When we picture water, we might sense some softness and space. That's why the ocean might be great, or sitting by a stream and just picturing the water or the flow, one of the elements that we're composed of. Because if things can flow again, then what is kicked up in it from being held, for instance, like if it's an enclosed pond that doesn't have a stream, it gets out full of algae and silt and dark. You can't see to the bottom. But if we allow for there to be some spaciousness and softness, then things become clear because things will settle down into the base and we can see to the bottom. That invites reflection. So the Dalai Lama, one of my favorite quotes from the Dalai Lama is that he said that my religion is very simple. My religion is kindness. And so rather than um, trying to force kindness by I will be kind, I'm sending you loving kindness, which is sort of an outward sense and a little bit forced. It can work, but sometimes a little bit forced. We can do the exact same thing and maybe even feel it a little bit more um, fundamentally when we invite space in and invite those that we love in, or that the aspects of nature that we love in. And then that changes the heart mind. So somatically sensing the softness and the spaciousness is kindness. It is metta. It allows for expansion of view. Things are not caught and held in tight. So I'm going to stop there and see if you have any thoughts or questions that I might respond to. I don't believe in answers, but response, I can respond. Oh, hi, Deborah. Sorry. Just seeing you there. Do you, George, oh, there you go. Hi.
There you go.
You can hear me.
I can. Yes.
Hello. Yes. Let me have some courage to ask this question because you're really speaking to my heart here today. My partner died a little over 5 months ago, and I need to get that book, Grieving Like a Buddha. So I'll look that up. That's good.
Breathing.
Oh, breathing, not grieving. Okay, well, see, there you go.
It could help with that. I can say
It could. Anyway, so grief, that's a whole subject. But the part I wanted to talk about with his dying was in the midst of all the difficulty of that, there was also the sublime.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't hear people talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I felt that when my mother died, and it was really about the softening of the heart, just wide open, and a tenderness that was so sublime. And I knew that, we can't sustain that, and so there's that part of me that wants to, and it's also sort of a benchmark as I feel myself not in that way now. And don't know. Sometimes I just wonder about the conditioning that we have that's so layered to keep us from that. And I don't know, I guess that's the vulnerability. We crave it, have an aversion or fear of it at the same time. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that, because that kind of loss is just so deep.
It is.
And difficult. And, speaking from my own experience and from listening to other teachers, I think that to invite the space, to invite the love and the loss to be felt can be sublime. It's a mixture of intense feelings about that person or that being, and allowing the space for it to be actually held, or not held even, but to come and to go. And that's to honor the person that we love. It's to honor any experience, really. So when we push an experience away, we're not honoring it, and allowing it to show us all the different aspects of experience that it holds. But when we honor a loved one, especially, having the space to invite those feelings in or to be with, I think is very courageous. I think it's part of our path, to not run away or bypass or even give a timeline to anything that's intense, right? But just to allow it to come and go. And then we're allowing the nature of the experience to be as it is for each of us, as it will. It's not going to be the same for any of us, but there'll be similarities. So it's very courageous. It's spiritually courageous, I think, to allow the feelings to be invited in. And that's to honor, I think, the love that you had for that individual.
Yeah.
So breathing around the heart it has been a practice that I've used when I've experienced some intense loss.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. That's
Thank
really
you.
nice. Thank
Yeah, I'm
you.
trying to be kind to myself because, yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that nature of experience. You can't name it and you can't foresee it.
Dude,
Really? Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. I love questions.
Jill, while we're waiting for someone else to raise their hands, there's a question in the chat
Oh, okay.
from Heather Jane. I've had 2
Oh,
decades of chronic tension in my back and neck. So consciously inviting space in my body isn't something I can much relate to. Do you have any ideas for where to begin?
hmm yeah. Thank you, Heather Jane. Yeah. Um, I think sometimes it's a little bit more genteel and gentler to invite space around something, not try to penetrate it and poke through it. Sometimes I think we put a little bit too much effort. And remember, effort is either it is force, right? And force involves uh, some sort of contraction. It's not, it's the opposite of allowing. So when we feel pain, and we all have experienced pain from time to time, and some of us have a life of chronic pain or, illness. That's what we are, what our life includes. But I think to breathe around something is very, very helpful because what happens with anything that's uncomfortable, whether it be physical, emotional, or mental, or a mix, because they're usually all mixed, right? So you can't just it's difficult at first to separate sensations from what we think and feel about them. So if we give space around something, again, whether it's physical or mental or emotional, uh, we're not contracting around it. So contraction is the opposite of kindness. It's the opposite of being equanimous or at ease. Contraction reduces the space for anything. It's how we try to cope a lot of times, and after a while, it's not that skillful. So when we at least try to soften the edges of something, like sometimes I imagine cloud-like formations around parts of my body that are intensely painful, or clouds or softness around my heart area when I'm experiencing something acute or painful. And even my mind, that's where the sky-like, the visual of sky-like mind is really helpful, sincerely helpful, I think. So when we can invite the softening around the parameter around something, then eventually we can move into it. But that comes in our own time. Not everybody is going to be the same with that. So it's something that you have to experience or experiment with. And that's what I would suggest is experiment with the area around the physical pain. Don't try to move right into it because we've probably had, each of us have probably had several decades, if not many, of tightening around and pushing away. And so this is the opposite of what might feel um, intuitive, because tightening around or pushing away actually exacerbates something. But when we soften around something, it allows, and then it'll come and go. But it also, in terms of physical pain, when you soften around the area, it'll feel better. When you grip around an area of pain, especially physical, it'll hurt more. So we think we're doing ourselves a favor by tightening around something. The muscles kind of do that on their own. So we have to invite conscious awareness and kindness and tenderness into this aspect of experience and open to it. Maybe not mentally or emotionally right away, but physically we can do that. So that's what I would suggest. Hopefully that's helpful. Oh, thanks, Heather. I see a question in here. Oh, I see. It's to somebody else, not to me. It was to Deborah. Are there any other thoughts or questions about the practices that we did? Because there were several that were woven together. Just to kind of guide you through some possibilities or potential practices. And I think that, when we're on our own, that's when the real fruit can come, because you can spend a little less time or spend a little more time with a particular skillful mean or practice. Yeah. And you can experiment. Lying down is a really nice way to practice, especially softening. Yeah, because we're not as tense when we're lying down. And so you can relax tissue that way. And again, relaxing the tissue is relaxing the nervous system. It's opening the nervous system. It's allowing for more breath, which is the energetic, unseen aspect of the body, of the subtle body. So you could lie down and do some breathing practices, and that'll really help. Really, really help. I'm seeing a hand up, but I'm not going to ruin your name.
A show built in, I think.
Thank you.
Sorry, was have a fun expert. My question was a little more with the practice. Like especially today, I felt that more than ever. I guess because I'm in meditation all morning. Like there seems to be a moment when there's green and purple light coming in, and then at some point it goes outward, inward, and then outward. It happens more when I'm, I think, in a stage of like connecting with my heart. Other times, and I was wondering if there's some kind of explanation around that, or brainwaves, or not sure what to make of it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not scared of it, but
yeah. I would say it's an experience that will come and go, and you don't have to know why. We conceptualize and perceive right away and very easily, and that's what gets us into trouble. So the Tibetans, I had a Tibetan teacher that used to say that these kind of more subtle body experiences or even visual experiences are ornaments or displays of practice, and they'll come and go. Do we need to figure them out? No. Because we can place a perception or an idea or conceptualization around everything. And we do. And that naming of something closes off the experience of it. So I would say, notice it, be with it, allow it, and it'll leave. But try not to invite it, hold it, or even think about it, try to figure it out. Because we really don't know. And that's where learning something sometimes overlays our direct experience of something. And I don't think that's so helpful all the time. So if I say purple means this, and you don't experience it like that, then I'm overlaying your experience, and then you might do that too. Do you see what I mean? And that could be just my opinion, and that could actually be wrong view, because I don't know. I'm guessing. So sometimes our what we've learned in the past or what we've been told is right or wrong, or good or bad, or something we need to hold on to, or something we need to push away. It takes all those variations on a theme, are not helpful to just being with experience, to being the witness that's witnessing without clinging, grasping, pushing away. So that's what I would suggest. It's just, that's your experience. That's how it's coming to you. All of us are slightly different, which is so amazing. When I teach about the subtle body, I love hearing different people's experiences. It's going to be unique, but there'll be some similarities. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Melanie? Hi.
Hi. This was wonderful. I mean, just what I needed to hear. You mentioned something about breathing exercises, to help. That's where I get stuck. My breathing gets a little tense and it's hard to soften that. So I was just wondering, what you would have to offer there.
Well, I would call them practices rather than exercises because exercises seem a little bit like effort, but they're different, lots of different kinds of practices. Now, in the yogic tradition, the Indian yogic tantric tradition, there are breathing practices that are done a particular way. But in the Buddhist practices of breathing, they're very different. I think it's about finding what suits you. But one thing that can be really, I think, amazing guidance is that the breath is actually energy. It's prana, it's chi. It's what in Tibetan practices it's called lung, which means wind. That's why I use the breath as breeze or wind. I think it's a lovely metaphor and image. That when we listen and increase the capacity to breathe, what we're doing is giving ourselves some space, not just physical or somatic, but also in the heart mind. So there's lots of different breathing practices. I have a lot of them on my website. You're welcome to look at them there. But one of the breathing practices that we did, and it was brief, it was really brief because this time together is brief, I think. And everything's relative, isn't it? But is to breathe around or into and around the heart area. And that increases our capacity to sense, to feel, to be with, to allow things to come and go. That was a very soft guidance around softening the heart, I hope, anyway. So that was, an invitation there. But I spend at least a half an hour a day doing different kinds of breathing practices. And then throughout the day, I will. Because when we start to notice this withdrawing in a way, tightening and gripping and withdrawing from someone or the world, what we can experience physically, somatically, is a tightening, right? That's why I like that quote, and I use it often about tightening the conceptual hand of thought. If we open it, things move. Now, when you're imagining that you're breathing in the sky, or you're imagining that you're breathing in an ocean breeze into your heart area, you're physically affecting that area. You're somatically and physically, the imagination creates a physiological response. So anytime we feel the body tighten, we can imagine that we breathe into it. That would not be necessarily like a regimented breathing practice at all, but it would be more experiential and in the moment. And so when you feel your shoulders tighten, which is like kind of a mundane example, but if you feel your shoulders tighten and you imagine breathing softness or pliability or plumpness into those tissues, guess what? That releases what the body has been holding in terms of emotions and thoughts. So you can't release thoughts and feelings unless the body is included in that, because the body is what senses everything. So the Buddha taught about nama, rupa, never separating the two. Nama is the material or the mental form of awareness or consciousness, and rupa is the material form. They're together. So breathing practice can take lots and lots of different variations and forms. And I would suggest just, looking around on the internet. You're welcome to look at what I have, and then experimenting with it. Because really, when you're breathing into different areas of your body, what are you doing? You're moving awareness there. You're tending to create some softness and space, which relates to kindness and compassion. You're being kind.
Very good. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. I think we're going to be ending in a few minutes. And I want to thank you, um, those of you who could stay on physically, those of you who had to leave. I still thank you for showing up for the time that you did. And I just want to briefly bring us through a little bit of practice to sort of soften what's called the vagal areas, the vagal nerve areas of the body, and which can tend to balance the nervous system, but just to see with these suggestions how you feel afterwards. And um, you're welcome to contact me at any time. You can do that through my website. I have lots of online classes. Um, I do teach retreats time to time. I mentor. I love seeing people individually. I have mentoring groups, small groups, where I teach these somatic practices along with Dharma, somatic psychologies, different subtle body practices, and Dharma. So you can find all of that on my website. I won't bore you by talking about it, but let's just do a little practice to end. So just be comfortable for a minute or two. And if your microphone is on, please mute it. And let's begin by allowing the eyes to sink very softly in towards the back of the head. It's almost like they're dropping into some delicious soft quilts. And see if you can relax all around your eyes. And even notice the perfectly soft and beautifully fit aspect of your eyelids. And then see if you can relax the skin on your face, as if somebody's widening your forehead by smoothing it with a warm touch, kind touch. Allowing the skin to feel a little more plump, not holding on to thoughts or ideas, attitudes, perceptions. Imagine that you can open your ear canals and even sense breath moving in and out through the ears. And relax your lips. And see if you can allow the tongue to soften in your mouth. And as it falls down your throat, let your shoulders be like waterfalls and just fall down your back. All the little muscles between your ribs relax. So there's this very tender breeze, very, very sweetly moving the ribs, just a little bit. And softening your belly. Maybe noticing the belly rise and fall. Connecting to whatever it is that is holding your body right now. Letting your weight be known, weight of the bones, gravity. Inviting your body, heart, mind to be like a cloud or an open sky. And take a moment just to rest in that. May any of the benefits or merits of our practice be shared with all sentient beings. seen and unseen. 2 legs, wings, fins, roots. Born and to be born. May the blessings of our practices be shared.